The most dangerous piece of career advice you've ever received is the one that sounds the most reasonable. Pick a lane, climb the ladder, specialize. By the end of this, you'll understand why the messy, zigzagging career path is quietly becoming the most valuable one. That gap in your resume you try to explain away is the very thing that could make you irreplaceable. And chances are, you're looking at your own history all wrong. We're all taught to see a career as a straight line, an orderly progression from entry level to senior management, all within one field. It's a clean narrative. It looks great on paper. It also makes you incredibly fragile. A specialist dedicates years to mastering a single, deep skill set. Think of a master craftsman who only works with a specific type of wood. When that wood becomes scarce or a new material replaces it, the craftsman's deep expertise suddenly loses its context. Their value plummets. This is what happens when automation, industry shifts, or economic downturns hit highly specialized roles. The ladder you've been climbing is suddenly leaning against a building that's being demolished. The alternative is what some researchers call range. It's the path of the generalist, the dabbler, the person with a weird background. This is the person who spent 3 years in marketing, then pivoted to coding, then worked for a non-profit. On paper, it looks chaotic, confused. But what's really happening is the accumulation of mental models from different worlds. They are learning different ways to think. The marketer learns persuasion and human psychology. The coder learns systems thinking and logic. The non-profit worker learns resourcefulness and mission-driven alignment. Each step builds a unique cognitive toolkit. When a new complex problem appears, the specialist reaches for their single trusted hammer. The person with range has a whole bag of tools. They can see the problem from multiple angles at once. They can combine ideas that the specialist would never encounter. But this creates a paradox. If being a generalist is so powerful, why does every single job description demand 10 years of experience in one specific software? Why do hiring managers filter for perfect linear resumes? The answer is a system designed to optimize for something far more common than innovation. Hiring managers are playing a different game. Their primary goal is to minimize risk. A candidate with a perfect linear resume is a known quantity. They have a proven track record of doing one specific thing. They are predictable. Predictability is safe. Hiring a misfit, someone with a winding path, feels like a gamble. Will their skills from a different industry translate? Will they get bored and leave? For a manager trying to fill a role and hit a deadline, the safe bet almost always wins. They are hiring to solve today's problem. Today, this is where the misfit's advantage begins to take shape. While everyone else is competing on the same narrow metric of specialized experience, the misfit is building something else entirely. Combinatorial creativity. This is the ability to synthesize knowledge from seemingly unrelated fields to create something new. Johannes Gutenberg used this to invent the printing press. He combined the screw mechanism from a wine press with the idea of coin punching to create movable type. He was a goldsmith. He understood metal. He was an outsider to the world of scribes. He saw the problem of reproducing text from a different perspective, connecting dots that were invisible to the people who lived inside the world of manuscripts. You've experienced this on a smaller scale. Have you ever been stuck on a problem, then had a conversation with a friend from a completely different profession? They ask a dumb question that makes you see the entire issue in a new light. That's the power of the outside perspective inside them. Their brain is a collection of different worlds. The mental models they acquired as a musician allow them to see patterns in data that a traditionally trained analyst might miss. The empathy they developed as a bartender makes them a surprisingly effective project manager, able to de-escalate team conflicts before they start. They are cross-pollinating ideas. This unique ability to innovate, however, is forged in a process that feels like a professional failure. It's born from the disorienting, humbling, and often painful experience that most people spend their careers trying to avoid at all costs. The source of this power is the pivot itself, the act of intentionally becoming a beginner again. Think back to the last time you were completely new at something, that feeling of incompetence. The awkwardness of asking basic questions, the slow grinding process of building a new skill from scratch. Most people interpret this feeling as a setback, a step backward. You were a senior manager, now you're a junior developer writing basic code. You were a respected attorney, now you're trying to figure out how a commercial kitchen operates. It's a massive ego hit, but something profound happens in that beginner's mind space. When you're an expert, you rely on established routines and mental shortcuts. You operate on autopilot. When you're a beginner, you have no autopilot. You are forced to pay attention to everything. You have to learn the fundamental principles of the field, the first principles, because you don't yet know the shortcuts. This deep foundational learning is something the specialist who learned their trade a decade ago has long since forgotten. You are building a much stronger, more flexible foundation of understanding. While the specialist is simply adding another layer of paint to their existing knowledge, you're laying an entirely new foundation next to your old one. You learn how different systems work from the ground up. The person who pivots from finance to software engineering learns to code, but they also learn how tech teams think about building products, how they handle uncertainty, and how they prioritize features. When they look back at the world of finance, they see it through this new lens. They might spot an opportunity to build a software tool for financial analysts that no pure coder would ever imagine, and no pure financier would know how to build. They can bridge the two worlds. They become the translator. They are the human API between two industries. This experience changes you. You develop a kind of meta skill, learning how to learn. You get comfortable with ambiguity. You build resilience from the experience of starting over and succeeding. These are the very traits that are most valuable in a rapidly changing economy. They are the traits that allow you to adapt. All of this is happening while you feel like you're falling behind your peers. But how do you actually articulate this journey? How do you sit in an interview and frame a history that looks like a series of random detours as a deliberate, powerful strategy? You have to become the narrator of your own story. You connect the dots for them, because they won't do it on their own. The key is to frame your experience as a T-shaped skill set. The vertical bar of the T is your deep expertise in one area, the place you've spent the most time. The horizontal bar is the breadth of knowledge you've gained from your detours. It's this combination that makes you unique. Instead of saying, "I worked in marketing for a few years, then I switched to product management," you say, "My time in marketing taught me how to understand the voice of the customer on a deep emotional level. I bring that user-centric perspective to every feature we build in product, which allows us to anticipate needs before the customer even articulates them." You see the shift? You're explaining the transfer of valuable, rare skills. You're building a bridge between your past and their present problem. Let's take a concrete example. A former high school history teacher who pivots into user experience research for a tech company. The hiring manager sees teacher and thinks irrelevant. But the candidate frames it differently. "For 10 years, my job was to take complex, dense information and make it engaging and understandable for a skeptical audience of 16-year-olds. Every single day was a live user test. I learned how to read a room, how to simplify without dumbing down, and how to create a narrative that holds attention." That's exactly what I do now as a UX researcher. I translate complex user behavior into simple, actionable stories for our development team. Suddenly, teaching was a 10-year bootcamp in communication, empathy, and user research. You must identify the core, abstract skills hidden inside your concrete job titles. Was being a barista about making coffee, or was it about system efficiency, quality control, and customer de-escalation under intense time pressure? Was waiting tables about carrying plates, or was it about sales, memory, and managing multiple competing priorities simultaneously? When you tell the story this way, your resume stops looking scattered. It starts to look like a curated collection of cross-disciplinary training. Your winding path becomes a design, but the advantage runs even deeper than a unique combination of skills. The most powerful asset you gain from a weird career is a form of perception that specialists, by their very nature, can't access. The ultimate misfit advantage is perspective. When you spend your entire career inside one industry, one company, one role, you become blind to its underlying assumptions. The rules and rituals of your field become as invisible and unquestioned as the air you breathe. You're the fish who doesn't know it's in water. The misfit, the person who has been in different oceans, can see the water. This outsider's view allows you to question the unquestionable. Why do we do it this way is a question that often annoys insiders. To them, the answer is, because we've always done it this way. But the misfit, who has seen it done 5 other ways in 5 other contexts, can see that the way is a choice, a historical accident, a preference that has hardened into a rule. They can see the invisible constraints that are holding the entire team back. True innovation rarely comes from someone who is deeply embedded in the status quo. It comes from an outsider who imports a proven idea from a different world. This is called analogical innovation. Think of the company that revolutionized the airline industry by modeling its pit crews after NASCAR teams to reduce turnaround time. Someone had to have a foot in both worlds to see that parallel. Or the hospital that reduced medical errors by adopting checklists from the aviation industry. A doctor who was also a pilot made that connection. These breakthroughs happen at the intersection of disciplines. A non-linear career is a life lived at that intersection. You are a walking, talking intersection. You embody the space where new ideas are born. This is why that feeling of being behind is an illusion. You were collecting perspectives while your peers were just digging deeper into their single trench. Their view got narrower and deeper. Yours got wider and more interconnected. They know the one true way. You know that there are many ways, and the best one often involves stealing an idea from somewhere completely unexpected. Stop trying to explain the gaps in your resume. Start explaining what you built inside them. The detours weren't a bug, they were the entire point. And this same logic explains why the most successful founders rarely look like the experts in their own field, which is a different kind of uncomfortable.